You have been thinking about the same problem for 3 days, not solving it, thinking about it, turning it over, examining it from every angle, replaying the conversation, imagining the outcomes, building the case for every possible version of what could happen. And somewhere in the middle of all that thinking, you stopped, not because you found the answer, because you got tired. So you picked up your phone, scrolled for 20 minutes, and then started thinking about it again. This is not a cognitive problem. It is not anxiety in the clinical sense. It is something Nietzsche identified with uncomfortable precision. And his diagnosis is not flattering. You are not trapped in overthinking. You are choosing it, because overthinking is the most sophisticated form of avoiding the thing that the thinking is about. Here is the mechanism. Overthinking feels like work. It has the texture of effort, the focus, the fatigue, the sense that you are engaging seriously with a problem. This is its primary deception. The most spiritual human beings feel the happiness and power of their existence precisely where others would find their decline. In the labyrinth, in hardness toward themselves and others, in experiments. Their delight is self-conquest. Real thinking moves toward a conclusion and then acts on it. Overthinking moves toward a conclusion, finds a reason to question the conclusion, and begins again. It is a loop with an exit that you are consciously not taking. Why? Because the exit requires a decision, and decisions carry the possibility of being wrong. Overthinking keeps you in the pre-decision state indefinitely, where you cannot be wrong because you have not yet committed to anything. It is not a trap. It is a hiding place. Nietzsche had a word for the specific psychology underneath overthinking. He called it weakness of will, not in the moral sense, but in the structural sense. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. Sit as little as possible. Do not believe any idea that was not born in the open air and of free movement. The mind that overthinks is a mind that has lost the connection between thought and action. It has learned, through repeated cycles of thinking without acting, that thought is an acceptable substitute for movement, that the internal process has value, independent of what it produces externally. It does not. Thought that produces no action is not thinking. It is rumination. And rumination is not the activity of a sovereign mind. It is the activity of a caged one. But here is what makes Nietzsche's diagnosis uncomfortable. The overthinking is not happening to you. You are producing it, actively, because on some level, the level below the frustration, below the genuine desire to stop, it is serving you, not necessity, not desire. No, the love of power is the demon of men. Let them have everything: health, food, a place to live, entertainment. They are and remain unhappy and low-spirited, for the demon waits and waits and will be satisfied. The overthinking satisfies the will to power in its most diminished form. It gives the mind something to dominate, itself, the endless internal argument, the construction and deconstruction of possibilities, the management of imaginary outcomes. This is the drive for mastery turned inward, feeding on the only available material. You are not the victim of your overthinking. You are its author. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can redirect the energy that is currently being wasted on it. There are 3 specific forms this takes. Each one feels different. Each one serves the same function. Form 1. The outcome loop. You run the same scenario forward. What will happen if you do X, if they respond with Y, if the result is Z, until the variables multiply beyond manageability. Then you start again. The loop does not produce clarity. It produces the sensation of thoroughness as a substitute for action. Form 2. The retrospective loop. You replay what already happened, the conversation, the decision, the moment. You identify what you should have said. You reconstruct a version where you performed better. This version does not exist and cannot be acted on, but the mind runs it anyway, because it provides the feeling of resolution without the cost of actual change. Form 3. The identity loop. You think about yourself, who you are, what you are becoming, whether you are moving in the right direction. This loop is the most sophisticated because it masquerades as self-awareness. It is not self-awareness. It is the examination of the self as a substitute for the construction of the self. Man must be surpassed. And what is the ape to man? A laughing stock or a painful embarrassment? Man shall be the same for the Übermensch. A laughing stock or a painful embarrassment. The man who spends his hours examining the self he has not yet built is not building it. He is consuming the hours in which it could have been built. 3 steps. The protocol to stop the loop. Step 1. Set the deadline before you begin thinking. Before you engage with any problem that has produced overthinking before, set a hard time limit. Not, I'll think about this until I have clarity. Clarity does not arrive on its own timeline. It arrives when the deadline forces it. 5 minutes. 15. 1 hour maximum for any problem that does not require research. When the time ends, you have the best conclusion available to you with the information you currently possess. You act on that conclusion. The conclusion will be imperfect. Act on it anyway. An imperfect decision executed is more valuable than a perfect decision that remains perpetually in construction. Step 2. Interrupt the loop with physical action. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. Nietzsche did not mean this as encouragement to exercise. He meant it as a structural observation. The mind that is physically moving cannot sustain the closed loop of rumination. When you recognize the overthinking pattern, do not try to think your way out of it. The mind that is looping cannot evaluate its own loop objectively. Exit the loop through the body. Stand up. Move. Not to distract yourself, to interrupt the neurological pattern that sustains the rumination. The physical movement breaks the loop at the biological level. When you return to the problem, you return to it from outside the loop, not from inside it. Step 3. Redirect the will to power outward. The overthinking exists because the drive for mastery has no external target. Give it one. Not a vague goal. A specific task with a specific output that can be completed in the next 2 hours. Something that requires your full attention and produces a visible result. The secret for harvesting from existence, the greatest fruitfulness, and the greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously. Build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. The mind that is genuinely engaged with something real, something that demands it, that resists it, that produces actual output, does not have the surplus capacity for the internal loops. The overthinking is a symptom of underdirected energy. The cure is not less thinking, it is more directed action. The loop ends when the will to power finds something outside the skull to work on. Give it something, today, before the loop starts again. If this hit differently than what you usually watch, subscribe. No motivation, no self-help. Nietzsche. Every week,